Welcome to the channel where the strange, terrifying, and unexplained come to life after dark. Here we dive into true stories, urban legends, and eerie encounters that'll make you think twice before turning off the lights. If you love horror that lingers, hit subscribe and join me as we explore the shadows. Now let's dive into tonight's story. I should have trusted my gut the moment I stepped into the building. Something about the place just felt off, not haunted exactly, just wrong. You know that quiet that isn't peaceful, the kind that feels like it's waiting for something? That's the kind of silence that greeted me when I first walked into the apartment building on Clark Street. I had just moved to the city for work, new job, new life, new everything. I was broke, stressed, and desperate to find a place fast. When the landlord showed me 6B, it felt like a steal. Decent space, surprisingly clean, and dirt cheap. I remember asking him, "Why so cheap?" He just smiled and said, "You'd be surprised how many people don't want to live on the 6th floor." That should have been my second red flag, but I didn't listen to myself. I signed the lease that same afternoon. The first night I barely slept, not because of any ghosts or nightmares, just the usual moving day exhaustion. But around 2 a.m., I heard something weird. Footsteps. Slow, heavy footsteps from the apartment above me. The thing is, 6B is the top floor. I remember lying there in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing those thuds, one after another, like someone pacing back and forth. I laughed it off. Old pipes, maybe, or some echo from another unit. I told myself I was just tired. But every night after that, the footsteps came back. A week went by. The footsteps kept happening, same time, same pattern. Always past midnight, always the same slow dragging rhythm. I even tried recording it on my phone one night, but when I played it back the next morning, there was nothing. Just silence. No footsteps, no sounds at all. Like whatever it was, didn't want to be caught. I finally asked the landlord, half joking, "You sure there's not a secret 7th floor up there?" He just gave me a look, flat, unreadable. "There's nothing above you," he said. "The roof's locked. No one's up there." I don't know why, but that answer chilled me more than if he'd said there was someone, because now I knew for sure there weren't supposed to be footsteps. And yet, there they were. One night, I got fed up. I grabbed a broom handle and banged it against the ceiling. Hard. The footsteps stopped immediately. I stood there holding my breath, waiting. Then 3 slow knocks, right above me, like someone was answering. I didn't sleep that night. After those knocks, I couldn't pretend anymore. Something was happening, and I had no idea how to explain it. The next day, I tried to shake it off. Went to work, stayed late, kept my headphones in, anything to avoid thinking about what was waiting back at 6B. But dread sat heavy in my chest the whole day, like I was carrying something I couldn't see. When I got home that night, the hallway felt different. It's hard to describe. Same flickering lights, same faded wallpaper, but the air was colder. Still, like the building was holding its breath. I was unlocking my door when I noticed something. At the very end of the hallway, where the emergency exit should have been, there was another door. One I hadn't seen before. Steel gray, no number, no peephole, just a door. I swear to you, it hadn't been there the day before. I walked toward it slowly, half expecting it to vanish if I blinked. When I reached out to touch the handle, I felt warmth, not heat, not cold, warmth, like someone had just been holding it. But before I could turn the knob, it rattled. Not violently, not loud, just a soft jolt, like something on the other side was testing it. I yanked my hand back and hurried into my apartment. I locked every bolt on my door that night, even slid a chair underneath the handle. I couldn't explain what I saw. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe it was stress. But deep down, I didn't believe that. Because around 2:13 a.m., the footsteps returned. But this time, they weren't upstairs. They were in the hallway, right outside my door. The moment I heard those footsteps, slow, deliberate, I stopped breathing. It wasn't just the sound, it was the feeling that came with it. Like the air in my lungs turned to ice. I sat frozen on my couch, every muscle tense, listening. One step, then another, then a pause. Whoever or whatever was out there, they weren't in a rush. The steps crept across the hallway floor like someone dragging their feet. Like they wanted me to hear them. Like they wanted me to know they were there. I tiptoed to the door, careful not to make a sound. My eye hovered over the peephole. Nothing. The hallway looked empty. I waited a few more seconds, heart pounding, and just as I was about to step away, a shadow passed across the peephole. I swear I stopped breathing. There was someone standing just outside my apartment, close enough that I couldn't see anything but the back of their head. I didn't dare speak, didn't dare move. Then, the doorknob jiggled. Just once, soft, like a test. Like they were checking if I'd forgotten to lock it. I didn't make a sound, not even a gasp. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps started again. Moving away this time, slowly toward the end of the hall, I heard them stop near that strange door. Then, nothing. No click, no creak, no opening or closing, just silence. I stayed by the door the rest of the night. The next morning, I opened it slowly, expecting to find something, scuff marks, a note, something. But the hallway was spotless, and that weird gray door? Gone. There was just a blank wall where it had been, like it had never existed at all. I didn't sleep the next night, not even a little. I just sat in bed with all the lights on, staring at the door, half expecting it to jiggle again. It didn't, but around 3 a.m., I got this feeling like I was being watched. I tried to brush it off. Sleep deprivation can mess with your head, but something told me to look out the window. So I did. My apartment looked over the alley behind the building. Not much to see, dumpsters, cracked pavement, and a few flickering streetlights. Except tonight, someone was standing in the alley. Just standing there. It was a man, I think, dressed in black, his face lost in shadow. He was looking up, right at me. I couldn't see his eyes, but I felt them. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't do anything, just stood there staring. I closed the curtain. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I peeked again. He was gone. The next day, I asked the landlord if the building had security cameras. He just gave me this weird smile and said, "Not on the 6th floor." When I asked why, he shrugged. Nobody ever sticks around long enough to need them. That night, I did something stupid. I left the apartment. I told myself I needed air, needed to walk it off, needed to prove to myself that nothing weird was going on. So I walked down the hall and took the elevator to the ground floor. But when the doors opened, I wasn't in the lobby. I was on the 6th floor again, except it wasn't my 6th floor. The wallpaper was peeling, yellowed like old skin. The lights flickered and buzzed, and the air, it smelled like mildew and something metallic. Blood, maybe. I stepped out, thinking I'd made a mistake. But when I turned around, the elevator doors were gone, just a wall behind me. Then I heard it, footsteps, slow, coming closer. And that same awful feeling wrapped around me like a noose. I started to run. I didn't know where, just away. But the hallway twisted, bent in ways that didn't make sense. No windows, no stairs, no exit. Just hallway after hallway after hallway. And behind me, those steps, getting closer. Right when I thought I was done for, I turned a corner and saw a door. My door, 6B. I didn't question it. I just threw it open and slammed it shut behind me. Everything was normal again. Bright lights, clean air, the hum of the fridge in the kitchen. I was back. But when I looked at the front door, it was chained shut from the inside. And I don't remember locking it. I didn't leave the apartment for the next 2 days. Didn't go to work. Didn't answer texts. I just stayed inside with every light on, sleeping in short bursts on the couch with the TV playing something, anything, just so I wasn't alone with the silence. I tried telling myself it was all in my head. Stress, insomnia, maybe even some weird kind of panic attack. But then the whispering started. It was late, around 1:30 in the morning. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it. A voice, faint, low, and coming from inside the wall behind the bathroom mirror. At first, I thought it was the pipes again, but the sound wasn't mechanical, it was human. A whisper, just on the edge of comprehension, like someone speaking through gritted teeth on the other side of the plaster. I leaned in, not even sure what I was doing. Then I heard it, clear as day. "Don't look at the mirror." I stumbled backward, nearly knocking over the toothbrush holder. I didn't look. I couldn't. I turned the light off and left the bathroom without shutting the door. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I did everything I could to act normal. Made coffee, opened the blinds, played music. But the whole apartment felt darker, like something had settled in the walls and was just waiting for me to break. Around noon, I got a knock at the door. I froze. No one ever came to 6B. I hadn't ordered food, and I didn't know a soul in this city well enough for them to just show up. I crept to the peephole. No one was there. I waited a few seconds. Then I heard it, faint, almost childlike, right behind the door. "Let me in." I backed away, heart racing. Another knock, louder this time. I grabbed a chair and propped it under the doorknob. Then silence. I waited. 10 minutes passed, then 15. I dared to peek again. Still no one there, but there were footprints. Wet ones, leading from the hallway and stopping right at my door, like someone had been standing there, dripping. I looked down at the floor just inside the apartment. A single wet footprint. Inside. That's when I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't open that closet for 3 days. Ever since I saw the wet footprint just inside the door, I avoided the hallway altogether. I slept, well, tried to sleep, on the couch with the TV on, lights blazing in every room. I even left the windows cracked, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the fresh air would push whatever this thing was out of the apartment. But it didn't leave. It just waited. That fourth night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of something scraping, like nails, on wood. It was coming from the hallway. I sat up, heart pounding, ears straining. There it was again. Scrape, scrape, pause. Then, unmistakably, a slow knock on the inside of the hallway closet door. I didn't move. I couldn't. The knocks came again, harder this time. 3 slow, deliberate thuds against the door from the inside. Then a voice, muffled, low, barely audible. "I've been waiting." I don't even remember grabbing the kitchen knife. But next thing I knew, it was in my hand. I stood in the hallway, barefoot, shaking, staring at that closet door like it was a portal to hell. I reached for the handle and stopped. There was breathing. Not mine. From inside the closet, not panicked, not heavy, calm, like someone was waiting for me to open it. I backed away. Slowly, kept the knife pointed at the door. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I left. I grabbed my coat and keys and I ran. I didn't care it was the middle of the night. I just knew I couldn't be in that apartment a second longer. I drove around until sunrise, parked in a grocery store lot and sat there, engine off, eyes wide and hands shaking. When I finally went back, sun up, streets alive with normalcy, I expected the worst. But the apartment was quiet. The air was still. The lights I'd left on were still on. The closet door was still shut. But something was different. There were scratches on the inside of my front door. Not from the outside. From the inside, like someone, or something, had been trying to claw its way out. That was the moment I realized. Whatever's in apartment 6B, it doesn't want me to leave. I should have packed a bag and never looked back. But instead I stayed. I don't even know why. Part of me thought maybe I was imagining it. That maybe stress, lack of sleep, new job, new city, it all got to me. Maybe I wanted to believe it wasn't real. That the closet wasn't knocking. That the scratches on the door weren't real. So I stayed. And the next few nights were quiet, too quiet. No footsteps, no voices, no knocking. And that silence, that same wrong, heavy kind of silence that greeted me on day one, it came back. It pressed in around me like the air itself was waiting to see what I'd do next. Then I started waking up to strange things moved around the apartment. My bathroom mirror had steam on it one morning, even though I hadn't showered. The faucet was dripping, but when I tried to turn the handle, it was already shut tight. Once I came home from work to find every single cabinet in the kitchen wide open. Nothing was missing, nothing broken. Just opened. I didn't even close them. I just walked past them like they weren't there and sat on the couch staring at the wall for hours. That night, I dreamed I was in the hallway. The closet door creaked open, and someone stepped out. Not fast, not like in the movies, just slowly like they had all the time in the world. They didn't look like anything specific, just a shadow, but it felt like a man, tall, still, watching. Then it spoke. "You're starting to see now." I woke up screaming. The sound of the scream echoed through the apartment like it didn't belong to me. That was the first time I realized something I still can't say out loud without shaking. It doesn't just live here, it's inside me, watching through my eyes. And the more I acknowledge it, the stronger it becomes. I tried to keep myself grounded, I really did. I started journaling, meditating, even leaving lights on at night like a scared kid. Anything to feel normal again. But 6B didn't care. It wasn't finished with me. A few nights ago, I walked past the hallway mirror and stopped cold. There was something wrong with my reflection. It blinked before I did. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but it happened. I backed up, heart hammering, and stared at myself. At least, I think it was me. Same face, same eyes, but there was something in them. Like whoever was looking back wasn't just copying me, it was studying me, waiting. I reached out and touched the mirror. Cold glass, But the moment my fingers pressed against it, I felt something press back. Not from the other side, from behind me. I spun around, nothing. Empty hallway, silent apartment. But when I turned back to the mirror, the reflection was gone. Just darkness. Like the glass had turned into a black pool. And from deep inside it, I saw movement. A figure. Tall, motionless, watching. It wasn't me. I don't remember going to bed that night. I don't remember falling asleep. But I woke up with bruises around my ankles. Like hands had gripped me and dragged me across the floor. And on the wall, written in what looked like ash or soot, were the words, "You open the door, you don't get to close it." I scrubbed the wall for hours. The words wouldn't come off. Later, the neighbor from 6A knocked on my door. Mrs. Dorsey, sweet old woman who always smiled at me in the hallway. Her face was pale this time, like she'd seen a ghost. She said, "Honey, I don't want to scare you, but I heard someone screaming your name last night from inside your apartment." I said, "That was probably me. I had a nightmare." She shook her head. "No, sweetie, it wasn't your voice." After what Mrs. Dorsey said, I couldn't sleep. Not just because of fear, but because part of me believed her. I knew I hadn't screamed, not out loud anyway, and if it wasn't my voice she heard, then who the hell was in my apartment? I did the only thing I could think of. I went out and bought a cheap security camera the next morning, one of those motion-activated kinds. I set it up facing the hallway leading to my bedroom. Just one angle, one camera. I didn't want to go full paranormal activity. I just wanted proof I wasn't losing my mind. That night, I left it running. I even left the lights on. Locked every window, every door. I laid in bed fully clothed, wide awake, and just waited. Nothing happened. The footsteps didn't come. No whispers, no mirror tricks, just silence. Around 4 a.m., I finally dozed off. Next morning, I rushed to check the footage. Most of it was uneventful. Me walking around, getting ready for bed, fast-forwarded through hours of nothing until 3:17 a.m. The camera triggered. At first, I couldn't see what set it off, but then something moved near the edge of the frame. It wasn't a person. It was a shadow, just a sliver of darkness that crept into view like smoke, except it had shape, like a figure wrapped in something oily and wrong. And then it started walking, slow, gliding steps toward the bedroom door. Toward me, I watched it reach the edge of the camera's view, and then stop. It just stood there. I couldn't see its face. I couldn't even tell if it had one. But I swear to you, even through that grainy footage, I felt it looking at me. And then it did something that chilled me to my core. It turned, not toward the bedroom, toward the camera. And it smiled. Not a human smile, not even close. It was wide and unnatural, like something stretching skin over bone, like it had learned what a smile was, but had never actually done it before. Then the feed cut out. The camera shut down for almost 45 minutes. No explanation. I checked the power. Fully charged. I checked the memory card. No errors. It just stopped. When it finally came back on, the hallway was empty again. No shadow, no movement. Just a faint humming sound I hadn't noticed before. It sounded almost like whispering, but backward. Like someone rewound a conversation and left it on loop. I haven't touched the camera since. Because here's the thing, the timestamp where it shut off, it matches exactly the moment I remember waking up in bed, gasping for air, heart pounding, with the feeling that something was standing right next to me. And the worst part? The footage ends with me sleepwalking toward the hallway, smiling. After watching that footage, I didn't sleep for 2 days. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smile. That impossible stretched grin burned into my mind like an afterimage. But it wasn't just fear anymore. It was something worse. It was recognition. Some part of me, deep, buried, primal, knew that thing. Not from a dream, not from some horror movie, from somewhere else, somewhere older, like I'd seen it before tomorrow and had forgotten until now. I started keeping all the lights on in the apartment, every bulb, every lamp. The glow made it easier to breathe. But on the third night, right around 3 a.m., all the lights went out. At once, no flicker, no warning, just snap, blackness. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight. My hands were shaking. I walked to the breaker box in the hall, still trying to convince myself it was just a blown fuse. Then I saw it. The breaker hadn't flipped. It was pulled out, like someone had physically reached in and yanked the switch. I slammed it back up, and the lights flickered on again. But only for a second. Then they died again. The hum of the refrigerator cut out. Even my phone started glitching, screen flickering, flashlight stuttering. And then I heard breathing, right behind me, low, raspy, like someone who'd forgotten how to use lungs. I spun around and there was nothing, just the empty hallway. But the air felt wrong, thick, heavy like fog but invisible. I backed away slowly. As I did, I passed by the mirror in the hallway, the tall one near the coat rack. And in it, I saw something that wasn't there in real life. Me. But not just me. The reflection was smiling. That same impossible grin. My real face, my actual face, was frozen in horror. But in the mirror, I was calm, peaceful, like I was happy to be there, like I belonged. And then the mirror version of me waved. I ran. I bolted out the door, down the stairs, out into the cold street, barefoot and shaking. I didn't stop until I was 2 blocks away, hunched over on the curb trying to catch my breath. But even then, even out there, I felt it, a pressure behind my eyes, like something was inside me. Not possession, not exactly. More like something had made room in me. Like it had carved out a small corner of my mind and said, I live here now. I haven't gone back into 6B since that night. But it hasn't left me alone either. Sometimes when I walk past a dark window, I see myself staring back. And I'm smiling. For days after that night, I couldn't separate reality from the whispers in my head. I wandered the streets at odd hours, searching for any sign that I was still in control, any mirror, any window that would offer a glimpse of my own face untainted by that impossible smile. But everywhere I saw it, every darkened reflection, every vague silhouette in a shop window whispered that I was already changing. I started having conversations in my sleep. In my dreams, I spoke to someone, a calm, measured voice that reassured me, "You're one of us now." At first, I fought it. I screamed at my reflection, trying to erase that smiling stranger from the glass. But the more I resisted, the louder the voice grew. One morning, I woke with my fingers tracing words scrawled in ash across the bathroom mirror. "You belong. You can never leave." The message was etched so deeply it felt like it was a part of the glass. I tried to wash it off, but it wouldn't budge. In that moment, I realized I'd reached a point of no return. No matter how far I ran, no matter how many times I tried to silence that voice, it was now fused with me, an echo of something darker that lived within these walls. I decided to revisit apartment 6B. I needed to confront it face to face, hoping that understanding might break the cycle. With trembling hands, I unlocked the door and stepped back into that cursed space. The air was thick, every footstep echoing as if in slow motion. I moved toward the living room and then to the hallway, where I had seen the mirror before. This time, however, I was prepared with a small recorder, determined to capture whatever explanation lay behind the voice. As I approached the mirror, I could feel the presence intensify, like a tide about to break. In the reflection, I saw my face once more, but this time my own eyes met theirs, and behind them shimmered not only my terror, but a glimmer of resignation. I raised my recorder and spoke, voice cracking. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" For a long, unbearable moment, there was nothing but silence and the hum of a failing neon light. Then the mirror began to ripple as if it were water disturbed by a gentle breeze. The image of the smiling stranger emerged and stepped forward, merging with my reflection. It wasn't an attack. It was an invitation, a melding. The voice that had haunted my nights spoke, not through sound, but directly into my mind. "We are the echoes of those lost. We are the forgotten. And now you join us. Escape is not an option. Embrace what is inside, for it is all there is." In that final instant, I felt my identity crumble. The fear, the desperate need to flee, all gave way to a numb certainty, a realization that the apartment, with its cold walls and creeping shadows, had claimed me long ago. I was no longer entirely me. I was part of the building's dark legacy, an echo that would live on within these walls, waiting for the next soul brave or foolish enough to step into apartment 6B. Now, when I catch a glimpse of my reflection, I see two faces, one that trembles with forgotten sorrow and another that smiles in silent acceptance. I try to run, I try to hide, but it's always there, reminding me, whispering, urging me to surrender to the inevitable truth. There was something wrong with apartment 6B, and so, in the end, I became its final echo. I thought it was over. I thought becoming one of them meant silence, stillness, like I'd finally stopped struggling. But that's not what happened. That night, after I stared into the mirror and saw that thing smile back with my face, I blacked out. I don't remember hitting the floor or closing my eyes. I just remember waking up hours later, flat on my back in the hallway of the building. Not inside the apartment, outside. The door to 6B was shut behind me. I was ice cold. My skin felt like it had been dipped in snowmelt, and in my pocket was the recorder. Still running. The little red light blinked steadily like a heartbeat. I played it back, dreading what I might hear. But what came out of the speaker wasn't a voice. It was breathing. Heavy, ragged breathing, not mine. And beneath that, so faint it was almost hidden, was a whisper. Not one voice, but dozens, maybe hundreds, layered over one another like a ghostly choir just out of sync. He's still here. Don't let him go. He knows the way out. The recorder clicked off on its own. That's when I realized I hadn't been consumed, not completely. I was still me, and somehow that made me different. Dangerous, maybe, to them, because I knew something now. Someone else had escaped before, or almost did. I wasn't the first, and maybe I wouldn't be the last. I couldn't go back inside 6B again, not yet. Maybe not ever. But I knew now I had to figure out what this thing was, what it wanted, who else it had touched. I started at the building's leasing office. It was a tiny cubicle near the lobby that always smelled like wet cardboard and microwave soup. The manager, Alan, wasn't there, just a worn binder on the desk labeled Tenants, 1992 present. I took it. In the stairwell, I flipped through pages of leases, old signatures, names I didn't recognize, until I saw something strange. The same unit, 6B, had been rented out over a dozen times in the past 5 years. Most of the other units had tenants who stayed 5, 10, even 15 years. But not 6B. That apartment was a revolving door. Some of the names had no forwarding address, no emergency contact, just a date the lease ended, and a note, vacated suddenly. Or worse, no contact, key returned via mail. One name stood out, Thomas R. Keeley. Leased 6B in 2018, moved out less than 3 months later. And under reason for leaving, someone had written in shaky pen, mirror incident. That night, I searched for him online. Took me hours. But eventually I found a Reddit comment from a now-deleted account on a paranormal forum. The post read, I left my whole damn life in Chicago because of that place. If anyone is reading this and still lives on Clark Street, do not go near apartment 6B. Don't look at the mirrors. Don't trust your reflection. I still hear it sometimes, calling my name. No replies, no updates. But I knew it had to be him. And then, for some reason, I remembered something from my first week there. The weird patch of wallpaper peeling behind the bathroom mirror. I never thought much of it at the time. But now I needed to see it. I went back the next day during daylight. I told myself I'd be quick. I just needed a photo, a clue. When I walked into the bathroom, the air was cold, wet, like the mirror had been breathing all night. I peeled the rest of the wallpaper back. And underneath, scratched deep into the wall, were dozens of names. First names, last names, dates, some recent, some going back decades, carved into the plaster like tombstones. And at the bottom, barely visible, was mine. My name, written in handwriting that wasn't mine. Underneath it, a single word, soon. After seeing my name scratched into the wall, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that one word burned into my mind, soon. I stayed out of the apartment for a full day, rented a cheap motel room across town. It smelled like mildew, and the TV barely worked, but it was quiet, safe, or at least it felt that way. That night, something happened. I was brushing my teeth in the motel bathroom, trying not to think about the mirror. When I saw it, my reflection didn't move. I stopped brushing, stared. My hand was frozen midair. But in the mirror, my reflection kept going, kept brushing its teeth like nothing was wrong. Then it smiled. I wasn't smiling. I dropped the toothbrush, backed out of the bathroom like it was on fire. For a while, I just sat on the motel bed, heart racing, trying to convince myself I imagined it. I even laughed a little, out loud, just to break the tension. But then, knock knock, someone at the door. I froze. It was past 2 a.m. Another knock, slower this time. I looked through the peephole. No one was there. But as I backed away, I heard something behind me. A whisper, low, wet, like it came from the motel bathroom. Come back. I ran, left everything behind, wallet, keys, even my phone. I didn't stop running until I was 2 blocks away, crouched behind a dumpster, gasping like I'd been underwater for hours. My phone was still in the room. But when I borrowed someone else's and checked my voicemail later that morning, I had a new message. No number, just unknown. I played it. There was no voice, just the sound of slow, dragging footsteps on hardwood. And at the very end, barely audible, someone breathing into the receiver. And then a whisper. "You're already home." I didn't want to go back. Every bone in my body told me not to. But I couldn't keep running forever. My wallet, my ID, everything was still in that motel room. And something deep down told me the nightmare wouldn't stop just because I changed zip codes. It was following me. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went back to apartment 6B. It was almost sunset when I arrived. The building looked smaller somehow, like it had been drained of color. Windows dark, no sounds, even the air felt heavier. I climbed the stairs slowly, avoiding the elevator. I didn't trust it anymore. When I reached the 6th floor, I noticed something immediately. The door to 6B was cracked open. No lights on inside, just darkness leaking out into the hallway like smoke. I stood there for a second, listening. Nothing. Then I pushed the door open. The apartment looked exactly like I left it, but wrong. Every corner seemed too sharp. Shadows stretched too far. The light coming through the blinds was gray instead of golden, like the sun itself didn't want to touch this place. I walked inside. The door closed behind me on its own. No wind, no draft, just click. I forced myself to walk to the bedroom. My bed was perfectly made. I never make my bed. There was something lying on the pillow. A photo. It was me sleeping in my own bed, but the picture had been taken from above, from the ceiling. I felt sick. Then I heard it again. The footsteps, not above me this time, behind me. I turned around. Nothing. But when I turned back, there was someone sitting on the bed. Me. An exact copy. Same face, same clothes, same everything. Except the eyes, they were hollow, dark, empty, like twin pits of nothingness staring back at me. It smiled. I backed away slowly, but it just sat there, tilting its head. Then it said in my voice, "You're late." He just sat there smiling. Same face, same tired eyes, same scar on the eyebrow I got in 6th grade. Every detail was perfect, except for the way it smiled. I don't smile like that. Not with my teeth, not like I'm enjoying a private joke that I'm the punchline of. I wanted to run, but I was frozen. "You're late," it said again, with that voice that sounded like mine, but wrong, too smooth, too calm, like it had been rehearsing. What are you?" I asked, even though part of me already knew. It didn't answer, just leaned forward slowly, resting its elbows on its knees like it was getting comfortable. Then it said something that made my blood run cold. "Do you want the room back or not?" "What?" I whispered. "You left," it said, motioning around the apartment with a casual wave. "You gave it up. I moved in." I stared at it, trying to breathe normally. "This isn't your place," I managed to say. "It's mine." "Was," it corrected and stood up. God, it was tall. Exactly my height, but somehow bigger. Like it filled more space than I did. Its presence made the walls feel smaller. "I took care of things while you were gone," it said, pacing slowly. "Cleaned up, made the bed, organized the fridge. You'd be surprised what a little effort can do." It turned back to me and grinned. Hell, even the nightmare stopped. "What are you?" I asked again, firmer this time. It tilted its head. "I'm what you left behind." It stepped closer. "You ignored the sounds, you ignored the signs, and when it all got too real, you ran. But something had to stay, right? Something had to pay the price." The air grew thick around me. My ears started to ring. "You're not real," I muttered. "You're not real." "Oh, I'm real enough," it whispered, now only a foot away. "Real enough to sleep in your bed, eat your food, live your life, maybe even take your job, your name, your skin." It reached out. I stepped back, too late. Its fingers brushed mine. A chill shot up my arm like ice water. I yanked away, heart pounding, every nerve on fire. And that's when I realized I couldn't feel my hand. From the wrist down, my skin had gone pale, gray, lifeless. "What did you do to me?" I shouted. It smiled wider. "You left me behind. I'm just catching up." Then it turned and walked toward the kitchen like we were roommates sharing breakfast. I didn't wait. I bolted for the front door and twisted the handle. Locked. I hadn't locked it. I grabbed the deadbolt, turned it, yanked, pulled. Nothing. I slammed my shoulder against the door. Still nothing. Behind me, I heard the sound of humming. My humming. It was making coffee. I turned, shaking. "What do you want from me?" I yelled. It didn't even look up. "You invited me in." "No, I didn't." "You signed the lease," it said casually, stirring a mug. "Remember? The ink, the page, the little line at the bottom that said, 'All tenants must remain present.'" It looked at me then, and its eyes, those hollow black eyes, flashed with something ancient. "You left. I stayed. Now we're out of balance." I backed against the door, trying to figure out what to do. Fight it? Scream? Beg? None of it made sense. Then it reached under the counter and pulled out something that made my stomach drop. A mirror. Not big, just a handheld one. But when it turned the glass toward me, I stopped breathing. There was nothing there. No reflection, no shadow, no face. I was gone. "I'm real," it said, "and you're just the echo." Everything inside me screamed that this wasn't right, that I had to move, do something. So I ran, straight for the window, 6 stories up. I didn't care. I crashed through the glass, arms up to shield my face, and I fell hard. But when I opened my eyes, I wasn't on the pavement. I was back in the hallway, standing outside apartment 6B, door closed, lights flickering, just like before, like none of it had happened. But I remembered. I turned slowly and looked at the number on the door, 6B. I reached out, hand shaking. Before I could knock or touch the knob, the door creaked open. Inside was darkness, and from deep within, I heard my own voice whisper, "You're late." The moment I stepped into the hallway, I knew I was making a mistake. But I had reached the point where I couldn't just not know. Every night, those footsteps had gotten louder, more deliberate, and last night they had stopped directly above my bed, like whoever or whatever was up there was standing completely still, listening to me breathe. I had to know what was on the 7th floor, even if the building manager swore there wasn't one. So I waited until midnight, flashlight in hand, and made my way up the stairwell. The rusted metal door at the top of the stairs, the one I'd always assumed led to the roof, was unlocked. It didn't open to the roof. It opened to a hallway that should not exist. It was narrow, dimly lit by a single flickering overhead light. The walls were stained, yellowed with age and water damage, and it was cold. So cold that my breath came out in white puffs, even though it was spring outside. The hallway curved unnaturally, like it had been built without any blueprint, or maybe just grown that way. There was only one door, at the very end. Apartment 7B. I didn't even hesitate. I should have, but I was already too far in. I walked the length of the hallway, my footsteps eerily muted on the warped wooden floor. As I reached for the doorknob, I realized my hand was shaking. Not from cold, something deeper. Some primal part of me was screaming to turn back. But I turned the knob anyway. It wasn't locked. The room was dark, pitch black. My flashlight beam sliced through the void, but only barely. The walls were covered in torn wallpaper, and the air smelled like mold and old metal. The apartment was almost identical to mine. Same layout, same furniture, except everything looked aged, like it had been abandoned for decades. And then I saw the mirror. It was mounted to the wall directly across from the entrance, large, ornate, and wrong. Because when I looked into it, I didn't see myself. I saw my apartment, and me sleeping in bed. I blinked, stepped closer. It was my apartment, my bed, my blankets, and my sleeping body, tossing slightly under the covers like I was having a bad dream. What the hell? I reached out to touch the mirror. My fingertips met the glass, cold and solid. But something moved behind me in the reflection. A figure, in my apartment, standing at the foot of the bed. My heart stopped. It was tall, too tall. Its limbs were long and wrong, like they'd been stretched. And its face, God, it didn't have one, just a smooth surface, like someone had erased it. The thing turned into the reflection and looked at me. Not the me in bed, me, as if it knew I was watching. Then in one fluid motion, it climbed into bed, with me. I staggered back, nearly dropping the flashlight. When I looked again, the mirror was dark, just glass. My reflection stared back. I bolted. I sprinted out of that apartment, down the twisted hallway, through the metal door, and didn't stop until I was back inside 6B with every lock secured behind me. I didn't sleep, but the thing in the mirror did, in my bed. The next few days were a blur. I tried calling the landlord again, but no answer. I asked my neighbors. None of them had ever been to a 7th floor. Some swore the stairwell didn't go up that far. But I saw it. I was there. I even tried going back up once more, in broad daylight. The metal door at the top of the stairs, welded shut, like it had never been opened. I started sleeping on my couch. Even then, I'd catch movement out of the corner of my eye, shadows that didn't belong. And sometimes I'd wake up and the bed in my room would be messed up, like someone had been lying in it. Someone who wasn't me. A week later, I came home to find my front door already open. Nothing inside looked touched, but I could feel it. Something had been here. I checked the bedroom. The bed was perfectly made. On the pillow was a note. Just 4 words written in my own handwriting. You sleep too loudly. That night, I packed everything I could into 2 duffel bags and left. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't say goodbye. I just walked out and never looked back. I ended up crashing with a friend across town. Different building, normal building. No footsteps. No mirrors that show things they shouldn't. But even now, sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, I feel the bed dip beside me. Just slightly. Like something long-limbed and faceless just slid in beside me. And every time I pass a mirror, I hold my breath, just long enough to see if maybe, just maybe, it'll show me something I don't want to see. Optional ending stinger for YouTube video hook. If you ever find yourself in an apartment with no one above you, and you start hearing footsteps at night, don't go looking for where they're coming from, because some floors aren't meant to exist, and some reflections aren't yours anymore.